Hi everyone! Ashley here and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. I've got a bit of a different video for you today and I hope that you enjoy it. As card makers, we are always on the hunt for good supplies that will help us make our cards more quickly or more easily. However, building a collection of crafting tools can get really expensive, and for those of us that have a bit more of a budget, it can start to get really intimidating really quickly. So, today, I'm going to be listing my top 10 favorite best value crafty supplies. These are all tools that, in my opinion, add immense value by helping you save time or making your crafting easier, but are all available to purchase for less than around $10. These are items that you can just throw in your shopping cart the next time you're buying crafty supplies, as little add-ons that won't break the bank, but they will make a huge impact on your crafting experience. This list isn't in any particular order since I think all of these items are really useful in different ways. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first item on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is purple tape. Purple tape is a low-tack roll of tape, almost like masking tape, except that it's purple. It comes in a large roll. Mine is actually quite small right now because it's pretty much all used up, and I've already ordered a replacement, so the next one is on the way because I use it so much. Purple tape has a multitude of different uses at your craft desk. For me, I use it to stick paper down to a work surface while I'm painting a background onto it. You can also use it to mask part of your paper off if you want to keep a clean edge for ink blending. I also use it a lot to hold coordinating dies in place when die cutting stamped images, which I do a lot of. And finally, I can also use it to stick paper onto the back of stencils, so if I'm stenciling something, I like to hold that paper onto the stencil so it doesn't move around and ruin the pattern, and purple tape is really great for that. Really, it's useful for anything where you need to temporarily hold something down because it doesn't stick too strongly and you can pull it off really easily, it doesn't leave a residue, and it is just super useful for temporary adhering things. Purple tape is available to purchase in two different widths that I've seen. I've seen the 0.5 inches and the 1.5 inches. This one I'm holding in my hand is 1.5 inches, so it's a bit thicker, but you can also get it a little bit thinner too if that is more of your preference. This tool is useful for almost every type of crafter just because there are so many different ways that you can use it and so many different ways you can keep it handy. I just leave it right on my craft desk. It's that important to me and it's always within my reach for whenever I need to use it. The next tool or supply on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list are white and black gel pens. These are pens that essentially just have white and black jelly kind of textured ink. They are available in a variety of tip sizes, so you can get larger ones and smaller ones, and this just changes how much ink comes out and how thick or thin the line is that you draw with them. However, you can probably just pick whichever size sort of suits your needs the best and just have one size on hand depending on what your preferences are and what you're using it for. So I tend to prefer the smaller width because I like to use them for very small images and small details. But if you think you're going to be using them for bigger images, then go ahead and get the bigger widths. Both black and white gel pens are really great for adding special accents onto your cards. The white gel pen I use a lot to add highlights to stamped images. You can also use it to add little white dots onto critters' eyes or even to add a special touch to pattern backgrounds. The black gel pen I mostly use to draw over the eyes of stamped critters. This gives them a really pretty glossy raised effect and it really makes the eyes stand out. It's such a small thing, and it's such a small addition to a card. It doesn't take much time, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but this is just one of those little details that makes such a huge difference on the final effect of your card. It adds an extra level of polish, and almost like professionalism, if that makes sense, to your finished card, and it's a really, really nice detail. So if you like to make cards with cute critters or other little similar images, then I think that these white and black gel pens are a super, super useful tool to have on hand. So the next supply on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is a triangle bead tray. This is a small, triangular shaped tray about the size of the palm of your hand. It's used for placing embellishments such as sequins or jewels onto a card. Everyone has a different way of storing their embellishments. Personally, I like to keep each different type of embellishment in its own little container. However, I find that these containers are often difficult to work with when you're putting your embellishments onto cards. It's kind of hard to get the embellishments out of the container one at a time. They tend to all just fly out when you're kind of digging, especially if you need that one color, that one size that's kind of near the bottom of the container. You gotta dig in and then they all fall out of the edges and you gotta clean them all up and it's a bit of a pain. So instead, every time I need to use an embellishment, I dump some from the container into this tray. And then it's so much easier to just grab whatever you need and place it on your card because they're sort of more in one layer and they're sort of flattened out and they're in more space. Then, the magic of the tray being triangular is that they're super easy to pour back into the container when you're done. All you do is tip the tray and all of the embellishments flow super smoothly from that tip of that triangle tray back into the container. So I love this tray for just adding, anytime I need to add an embellishment, I'm going to use this tray. It's right on the surface of my craft desk. I can grab it super quickly and just throw some embellishments into it, throw them back into the container when I'm done, and it's just super, super useful. If you like to use any types of embellishments, so any types of small sequins or gems or anything like that, I would definitely recommend this tray. Okay, so the next item on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is double-sided tape. As crafters, we pretty much all need to use some type of adhesive, and there are many different types out there, from liquid glue to tape rollers, glue dots, and many more. However, one of my all-time favorite types of adhesive is double-sided tape. What makes double-sided tape so amazing? Well, it is super sticky and immediately permanent. These attributes also make it really bad for certain applications. However, for instances when you want a really good foolproof stick that you do not have to worry about coming apart, double-sided tape is your friend. I use double-sided tape all the time to adhere fun foam. I find that liquid glue does not really work well on fun foam. I find it really squishes around and moves around and doesn't stick the fun foam onto anything super well. So double-sided tape keeps fun foam in place beautifully. I also use double-sided tape a lot to adhere things to glitter paper. So again, I find that I can't stick things onto glitter paper with liquid glue. They just don't stick. It'll come right off. But double-sided tape sticks perfectly, so anything that I need to adhere onto glitter paper, I will go to my double-sided tape. Double-sided tape is available to buy in multiple widths, and I like to have a variety of them on hand because I use them for so many different things. I really like the small one for when you would need adhesive in small spaces, like around the border of a shaker card when you're using fun foam. I also really like the big width for adhering entire card fronts onto a card base, especially with that layer of fun foam in the middle. Double-sided tape is super easy to use. All you do is you pull it off the roll, however much you need, cut it off with scissors, and then adhere it down to the back of whatever you're sticking it onto. Then all you have to do is pull off the release paper and you'll expose that second sticky surface, and then you're ready to stick that down again onto whatever you're sticking it to. I use double-sided tape in almost every single card I make, and it's shown in almost every single card video I've posted. So if you want to see it in action, definitely check out some of my other videos. I would say that double-sided tape is useful to almost every card maker out there. If you've never used it before, I definitely recommend giving it a try. I'm sure you'll find a use for it, and I think you'll love it too. The next tool on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is an adhesive eraser. This is an eraser that's built to remove adhesive from surfaces. So if you're like me and you let liquid glue kind of squeeze out from the edges of whatever you're gluing down, or if you get glue on your fingers and then you touch your card and you smear it everywhere, like happens to me all the time, this tool is for you. I tell you, it's almost like magic. All you have to do is sort of scrub this spot of adhesive back and forth a little bit and this eraser will pull it right off. The eraser itself is really interesting. It doesn't really have the same consistency as like one of the normal erasers for pencils that you would have used in school. It's more gummy and has sort of more of a texture to it. I'm guessing this is probably what helps it pull up that adhesive. This eraser lasts forever. I've only ever purchased one. This is the first one I ever purchased. Eventually the corners do get a bit gummy because you're using those corners to pull up the adhesive and then that adhesive is stuck to the eraser. That's fine. It honestly doesn't matter and has not, in my experience anyway, affected its function at all. So I've had this particular eraser for I think at least 5 years now, and I've never had an issue with it. It's never not worked for me, and it's just a really, really valuable tool to have. So if you use any type of adhesive in card making, which I think we all do, and if you ever do get a little bit messy with it, this tool is super handy. Okay, the next tool on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is a collapsible water cup. This one is a little bit out there. It's not even technically a Crafty supply. I purchased this particular one at the dollar store in the pet section. I believe it's actually meant to be sort of a water cup for dogs, for when you're walking dogs. So if you want to take a dog out for a walk and you want to give it a little drink of water while you're walking, you can bring this little cup in your pocket, collapsed, and then you can kind of poke it out and pour some water into it for your dog to drink while walking. I like it on my craft desk because, as many of you I'm sure, my craft space is not as big as I would like it to be. At least not yet, maybe one day. So, for me, I like to have tools that can be made smaller for storage. So when I'm not using this cup, I just collapse it and I store it away flat in a drawer so it's not taking up any space on my craft desk. Then when I need it, I pull it out, I expand it, and it's ready to go. As you can see, mine is covered in paint and has gotten tons of use for just a few dollars. So this cup is really useful for anything involving water. I like to fill it with water and then I use it for watercoloring. So I'll use it to, wash off my paintbrushes or have the water to mix in with the watercolors or anything like that. When I'm not watercoloring, I actually use this cup as my catch-all for scraps, paper scraps. So that rather than spreading all of my mess all over my craft table, whenever I get a scrap, I just throw it in this little cup. When I'm done, I can just take the cup over to the garbage and throw it out. So it helps keep my craft space clean and organized as well. So if you have a small space for crafting and are looking for something to help you with watercoloring or even just keeping your mess organized with crafting that can be easily stored away, this tool will work for you. The next tool on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is a fine tip glue applicator. So most bottles of liquid glue come with, that standard topper that allows you to squeeze out the liquid glue, and it kind of comes out in big chunks and big quantities, thick lines, I guess. But a fine tip glue applicator comes as an empty bottle with a fine tip applicator nozzle, almost like a needle that allows you to apply the liquid glue onto your project in very small quantities. Certain fine tip applicators come in the perfect size so that when you remove the top part, you can actually put it onto other small bottles of liquid glue, such as what I've done here with Ranger's Multimedia Matte Glue, which is one of my favorite liquid glues. So you just take the topper off and put it onto this liquid glue, and you're ready to adhere this new liquid glue with a fine tip. These nozzles are super great for when you need a tiny amount of glue and lots of precision, such as when you're sticking down small stamped images onto a card, or even when you're gluing small embellishments onto a card. In fact, this type of glue application is my favorite choice for sticking down gems or sequins onto a card, since for those, I just want a tiny dab of glue, which is much easier with these fine tip applicators than any other type of nozzle I've tried. Now, I will say that these nozzles do sometimes get clogged in my experience. I've had that problem in the past. Sometimes I use a small needle to push down the applicator tip and remove the clog. But I will be honest and say that does not always work for me, and sometimes I just cannot get rid of the clog. The good thing about these nozzles is that they usually come in multi-packs, so you'll get maybe 5 or 6 in a pack or more. And if I've ever had one get super clogged, I usually just trade it in for a new one. Since they're not that expensive, I feel like it's a pretty good trade-off for the amount of use I do get out of them before they get clogged, to just sort of say that when one gets clogged, I'll move on to the next. So, if you typically work with small items or small stamped images, these fine tip applicators are a really good option for applying your liquid glue. The next item on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is a stamp chamois. This particular one is the Lawn Fawn stamp chamois, but there are multiple manufacturers that make similar products. I've also gone ahead and purchased the Lawn Fawn stamp chamois case because I love my stamp chamois so much. But that's certainly not essential, and I actually used my chamois for years without a case and it was just fine, so you do not need a case. A stamp chamois is essentially just a soft, reusable cleaning cloth that's used to clean stamps after inking. There are many different ways to clean your stamps out there, and everyone has their own way that fits best for them. But the stamp chamois is the one that works best for me, and it's the way that I've been cleaning my stamps for a very long time now. How it works is that when it's dry, the chamois completely hardens. But when you add water to it, so basically just hold it under a running tap for a few seconds, it completely loosens and reinvigorates and then becomes kind of floppy again. At this point, all you have to do is use it to wipe off your stamps that have been inked up, and it completely removes the ink from them, leaving them clean and happy. Now of course, the ink from the dirty stamp transfers to the stamp chamois, meaning that your stamp chamois will eventually start to look really inky and dirty after multiple uses. However, that is totally fine. It still works. You can even clean stamps using the parts of the chamois that look inky and it won't matter. That ink won't transfer back to the stamp. I have used my stamp chamois for years, over and over, and it keeps my stamps nice and clean. So it is a super good value for how long that it lasts. So anyone that wants to try a new way of cleaning stamps, that's, in my opinion, one of the best value ways to do so because all you need to buy is this one stamp chamois. I think this is a really great tool. The next tool on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is ink blending tools and mini foam applicators. I'm kind of cheating with this one because I'm kind of squeezing in 2 tools for the price of one. But if you're interested at all in ink blending, you will want to check these ink blending tools out. How they work is that you adhere a foam onto the bottom of the handle, and they actually attach to each other using Velcro. You can then go ahead and ink up the foam with whatever ink you like and blend it right onto your project. When you're done, you just remove the foam and do the same thing all over again with a different foam using a different ink color, but the same handle. They are purchased separately, so each handle is sold on its own, and then you can purchase a pack of foams, so I believe about 20 foam applicators will come in one pack. The cool thing is that since each foam adheres temporarily to the handle, you can use the one foam to blend a certain color and then remove it and switch to the next foam. So you really only need one handle, and you have the capacity to ink blend with as many colors as you have foams for. So again, you do need a different foam for every color, but you only need one handle for all of the colors. I do a lot of ink blending, and I have 2 handles. This way, it's easy to blend between 2 colors without having to remove the foam in between. But you really don't need more than that. If you want to add a 3rd color to your blend, just remove that foam from one of your handles and switch it over to the 3rd color, and that's not so bad. So I have survived with all the ink blending I do with just 2 handles. So if you like to do ink blending, I recommend these ink blending tools and mini foams, as in my opinion, they are one of the best value ways to get lots of different ink blending options, all with just 1 or 2 handles, and it's a low price for the handle. Okay, the next tool on my top 10 best value crafty tools list is a spray bottle. So speaking of ink blending, I use a spray bottle almost every time I ink blend a background to add an extra layer of splattery detail. This particular bottle is a distress ink sprayer, but really any bottle will do. Sadly, I actually dropped this particular bottle and it cracked just a few days ago. So I've now ordered a different one and a different brand, and it really doesn't matter what type of brand or sprayer you use. Even dollar stores probably sell them and they would probably work the same. So like I said, I mostly use this to add splatter to an inked surface. So I'll spray water using the bottle from a small distance away and then pat the surface down with a paper towel. With certain types of inks, such as distress inks, water will actually react with the ink, and when you pat it off with the paper towel, the ink will be lifted off with the water, leaving this really cool splattery pattern on your inked background. So the other really useful thing that I found with this spray bottle is that I also use it to clean my work surface. So when I'm done inking, I just take the sprayer and I spray my work surface a few times with water, and I wipe it off with paper towel, and voila, it's clean. It is the easiest way I found to clean a work surface. So this tool is one that I always keep on my craft desk so I can easily reach it whenever I need it, either for that splatter or just to clean my surface. So even if you don't ink blend, you might still find this tool useful for cleaning up after stamping if you've got any sort of mess on your work surface. So I would definitely recommend it for that as well. Okay, the last item on my top 10 best value crafty supplies list is a glitter marker. This one in particular is the Wink Estella glitter marker, but there are many other brands out there that will manufacture very similar products, so you can find whichever one you like best. This is a brush tip marker that contains a clear water-based liquid inside filled with glitter. So when you apply it to paper, it comes out as a clear layer of sparkle. This is a great tool for adding an extra layer of detail and embellishment to a card. I really like to use it to paint over stamped images that I want to add a bit of extra sparkle to, like maybe balloons or party hats, or really anything that I think might be fun to be sparkly. It does create this beautiful subtle shimmer, and it's just really, really pretty. So kind of like the gel pens, this isn't like a huge change to a card. It doesn't take a lot of time to do, it's not a huge deal, but it really just does add that extra layer of detail and just that extra layer of polish to a card, and it can really just add a nice finishing touch. And this tool can really be useful for any type of crafter because you can use it on anything. It doesn't even have to be used on stamped images. It can be used on die cuts, it can be used on backgrounds, really anything. So it's just a really nice, valuable tool for almost every type of crafter. Okay, so that completes my top 10 best value crafty supplies list. I truly believe that the tools I've talked about today are some of the most essential craft supplies on my desk, and they're available to purchase for so little. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about these supplies. Do you have any of them and do you find them as useful as me? Do you have any other super useful crafty tools that are really good value? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I hope that you enjoyed this video. In case you didn't know, I post my handmade cards on my Instagram account, which is linked down below in the description box. I also post videos here on my YouTube channel at least once a week, so if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button so you can see my newest videos every week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!